The grand hall of Thornwood Manor glittered with gold that night, but Eloise Thornwood felt as if the walls themselves were closing in around her. She should not have been there. She had been told to stay in her room, stay out of sight, stay out of the way. But something had pulled her downstairs, a strange restlessness, a feeling she could not explain. Now she stood half-hidden behind a marble column, heart beating fast, watching a world that had never included her. Lady Rosalind, her older sister, shone under the chandelier like a jewel placed in a perfect frame. Her emerald gown shimmered. Her golden curls were brushed into soft waves. Every smile she gave was practiced, polished, perfect. People stared at her the way they stared at rare paintings, full of admiration, longing, and envy. Lord Thornwood smiled proudly beside her, like a merchant showing off the finest treasure in his shop. And tonight the buyer had arrived. Duke Alaric Ashford. When he entered the hall, a hush fell over the room. He walked with a quiet confidence, tall and composed. His dark hair touched with silver at the temples. His reputation followed him. One of the most powerful men in the region, a man of deep loss and deeper mystery, a man who refused every match thrown at him. Tonight he was here to consider a bride. Everyone knew who that bride was meant to be. Rosalind. The perfect daughter. The beautiful one. The one worth showing. Eloise lowered her eyes, hoping no one would notice her. Her gray dress was plain. Her hair was pulled back too tightly. Her shoes were worn. She wasn't meant to be part of this glittering evening. She was the sister no one saw, the quiet one, the forgotten one. Rosalind had lessons in dance, song, painting, and charm. Eloise had silence, books. A small corner of the house where she sketched things no one cared about. She had lived her whole life in the shadows, learning that being unseen was safer than being noticed. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Do not embarrass us. Stay out of sight. Rosalind is the future of this family, not you. So why had Eloise come downstairs? She didn't know. But something inside her whispered that tonight something would change. She kept her eyes on the Duke as he moved through the hall. Every woman wanted his attention. Every father wanted his approval. Rosalind lifted her chin, prepared to shine. Lord Thornwood stepped forward eagerly. Your Grace, may I present my eldest daughter, Lady Rosalind? Rosalind curtsied with flawless grace. The room waited for the Duke to admire her, to smile, to speak. But he did none of those things. His gaze moved past her, past the crowd, past the bright lights, all the way to the far end of the room, to the shadowed column, to Eloise. She froze. His eyes held hers for a heartbeat that felt far too long. Then the Duke began to walk toward her. No one moved. No one breathed. Even Rosalind went still, her smile slipping. Eloise's stomach tightened. No, please, no, she begged silently. She didn't want attention. Attention always hurt. But the Duke kept coming. When he reached her, he did not bow or smile or pretend anything. He simply looked at her, truly looked, as if he saw someone worth noticing. You must be Lady Eloise, he said softly. Her breath caught. She nodded, unable to speak. She had no idea how he knew her name. You were watching, he said. Quiet, thoughtful, not trying to impress. That is rare. Rare. She had never been called rare before. Only plain. Only unimportant. Before she could answer, her father appeared at the Duke's side, panic tightening every line of his face. Your Grace, Lord Thornwood said quickly. Surely you meant to speak with Rosalind. Eloise is simply, well, she should not be here. Eloise felt the familiar sting of shame crawl up her throat. She braced herself for the Duke to step away. But he didn't. Instead, he lifted a hand, stopping her father's words. With respect, Lord Thornwood, The Duke said calmly, "I would like a moment with Lady Eloise, alone if she agrees." The hall gasped. Whispering broke out. Rosalind's face turned white, then red with humiliation. Eloise's father looked furious, but he forced a stiff bow. "As you wish, Your Grace." The Duke offered Eloise his arm. Her hand trembled as she accepted. She expected her father to pull her back, to shout, to do anything to stop this. But he didn't dare. They walked on to the terrace, leaving behind the noise, the music, the heavy air. The night was cool, the moon bright, and Eloise felt small beneath the wide sky. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the Duke said quietly, "I hope I have not caused trouble for you." She laughed softly, a sad, fragile sound. "My family is always troubled by me." He looked at her in a way no one ever had, not with pity, but with understanding. "I noticed your loneliness the moment I entered the hall. It looked familiar." She swallowed hard. No one ever noticed her feelings. No one ever cared enough to look. "Why me?" she whispered. "My sister is everything a duke could want." "Yes," he said gently. "Your sister is everything your parents shaped her to be, but I am not looking for a performance." His voice lowered, sincere and warm. "I am looking for someone real." Eloise felt something twist inside her, something painful, something hopeful. "I have felt invisible for so long," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Like I was a mistake my family did not know what to do with." "You are not a mistake," he said firmly. "You are simply unseen by people who refuse to look deeper." Her eyes filled with tears. He reached out, not to take her hand, but to offer it, allowing her the choice. She took it. The Duke smiled. "I would like to know you better, Lady Eloise, if you are willing." She opened her mouth to answer, but a sharp sound echoed from inside the hall. A crash. A shout. Gasps of alarm. Then Rosalind's voice, sharp with fury. "She did this! She stole him from me!" Eloise flinched. The Duke's jaw tightened. "We should return." But Eloise grabbed his sleeve, fear rising in her chest. "No," she whispered. "If we go back now, I don't know what they will do to me." The Duke studied her carefully. "Then stay here with me a little longer," he said. "No one will touch you while I am at your side." Eloise looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in her life she felt something grow inside her. Hope. But hope was dangerous in a house like hers. And as footsteps approached the terrace door, loud and angry, Eloise knew this night was far from over. Something had been set in motion. Something she could not stop. Something that could break her, or set her free forever. The terrace doors burst open. Lord Thornwood stepped out first, anger burning behind his eyes. Lady Thornwood followed, her lips pinched tight, her posture stiff with humiliation. Rosalind stood between them, trembling with rage, her gown glittering like shattered glass. Eloise instantly released the Duke's arm and stepped back, heart pounding, her breath turning thin. She knew that look on her father's face. She had seen it too many times. "This is unacceptable," Lord Thornwood hissed as he approached. "Eloise, what have you done?" Quote. Eloise opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Her throat had closed. The Duke stepped in front of her, calm but unmovable. "Lord Thornwood," he said, "Lady Eloise has done nothing. I chose to speak with her. That is all." Rosalind let out a bitter laugh. "You chose her? You expect us to believe that? She must have said something, tricked you somehow." Eloise winced, feeling that familiar sting deep in her chest. The Duke turned his face toward Rosalind. His voice remained polite, but there was steel underneath. "Your sister did not trick me. I approached her because I wished to." Rosalind's eyes filled with tears, beautiful, dramatic tears she had learned to summon at will. But tonight there was real pain behind them. "Father," she cried, "do something!" Lord Thornwood tried to recover his dignity, but the humiliation was too deep, too public. "Your Grace," he said tightly, Eloise is not suitable for consideration. She lacks the training, the refinement, the social graces. Enough. Quote, the Duke's voice was soft, but the command in it made Lord Thornwood fall silent. Then the Duke turned, looking directly at Eloise. I asked to speak with you because I wish to know you. Nothing more. If that is unwelcome, then I will leave at once. But tell me, do you wish for me to go? Quote, the question hit her like a storm. No one had ever asked what she wanted. Her mother only demanded obedience. Her father demanded silence. Rosalind demanded space, praise, attention. Everything Eloise was never allowed to have. What did she want? Her hands shook. Her breath trembled. She found the courage she didn't know lived inside her. No, she whispered. I don't want you to go. The Duke nodded, as though that simple truth was enough. But her father lost all control. This is an embarrassment, Lord Thornwood snapped. Eloise is plain. She is quiet. She hides from company. She is not fit to stand beside a duke. The old shame washed over her again. But then something happened she had never experienced before. Someone defended her. The Duke stepped closer to her father, his expression darkening, not with anger, but with deep disappointment. Lord Thornwood, he said quietly, I judge a person by character, not by the value you place on them. Do not speak of your daughter that way in my presence. Lord Thornwood's face went pale. Lady Thornwood stiffened, startled. Rosalind's chin trembled as she looked away. Eloise felt something warm rush to her eyes. Not tears of pain, but something unfamiliar. Tears of being defended, protected, seen. The Duke held out his hand again, offering, not demanding. Lady Eloise, he said softly, would you continue our walk, only if you wish it? She hesitated. Her father's glare burned into her skin. Her mother's coldness wrapped around her like ice. Rosalind's hatred pulsed like a wound. If she took his hand now, nothing would ever be the same. But something inside her whispered, you are allowed to choose hope. Eloise placed her hand in his. The Duke smiled gently and guided her down the terrace steps toward the moonlit gardens. Behind them, angry voices rose, but the Duke did not turn back. Eloise shook slightly. They will punish me for this, she whispered. He looked at her, a soft sadness in his eyes. I am sorry you fear that. No daughter should. Her chest tightened. She blinked away tears. I have spent my whole life being the disappointment, she said. Nothing I do is right. Nothing I am is good enough. I learned long ago that being unseen is safer. The Duke walked beside her slowly, giving her time. And yet, he said gently, you came downstairs tonight. She inhaled sharply. Yes, she had. Something inside her had brought her down from her room, something she didn't understand, something brave, maybe, something hopeful, something hers. I don't know why, she whispered. I do, he said. Because somewhere inside you, a part of you knows you deserve more than the shadows they keep you in. Her breath caught. No one had ever said such a thing to her. Not once in her entire life. They reached a stone bench beneath a flowering tree, moonlight scattered across the blossoms like silver dust. The Duke sat, but only when she slowly sat beside him did he continue. I came here expecting nothing, he admitted. I have met many families, many daughters trained to perfection, but perfection is not truth. He looked at her with an honesty that made her chest ache. When I walked into that hall, he said, I saw your sister. But then I saw you, and you did not try to shine. You simply were, and that quiet truth drew my eyes before I even understood why. She swallowed. People don't notice quiet. He shook his head. People who only want noise don't notice quiet, but those who seek meaning do. A soft wind moved through the garden, carrying the faint scent of roses. Eloise felt a warmth begin to spread through her chest, slow, hesitant, unfamiliar. Hope again. But hope was fragile. and she still feared she might lose everything the moment she stepped back into the house. "What happens now?" she whispered. "My father will not allow this. Rosalind, she will hate me." The Duke's expression grew thoughtful. "What happens now?" he said. "Depends on what you want." Eloise's breath shook. "I don't know," she whispered. "I have never been allowed to want anything." The Duke leaned closer, not touching, but near enough she felt his warmth. "Then let yourself want something right now, just one thing." Her heart trembled. Her voice broke as she spoke the truth she had never dared say. "I want to be seen." The Duke's eyes softened. "You already are." Before she could answer, footsteps approached the garden path. Fast, angry, urgent. Eloise stiffened, fear rising again. The Duke rose to his feet, placing himself between her and the sound. A voice cut through the darkness. Lord Thornwood's. "Your Grace," he called, his tone tight and shaking with barely controlled fury. "We must speak. Now." Eloise clutched her hands together, dread curling through her like cold water. This was not over. Her father would not let this go. And the night that had given her the smallest spark of hope might be the same night everything was ripped away from her. Lord Thornwood's voice cut through the quiet garden, sharp as a blade. Eloise felt her body go cold, her hands tightening in her lap as the Duke rose to face her father. "Your Grace," Lord Thornwood repeated, "this has gone far enough." The Duke's posture remained calm. "Then speak, my lord." Lord Thornwood glanced at Eloise, and the look in his eyes made her stomach twist. It was not simply anger, it was fear. Fear of losing control, fear of losing status, fear of losing what he believed he deserved. "This conversation will be held inside," he said, "where others cannot listen." The Duke's voice was steady. "Lady Eloise is a part of this matter." Lord Thornwood's lips curled. "She is the problem." Eloise flinched. The Duke's jaw tightened. "You will not speak to her like that again." A storm gathered in her father's eyes, but he forced a bow and motioned them toward the house. The Duke offered Eloise his hand, and she hesitated, fear tightening around her ribs. "I'm scared," she whispered. He bent his head slightly. "You will not face them alone." She took his hand. Together they walked into the hall, where the music had long since faded, and the guests had retreated to distant corners, whispering behind fans and gloves. Lady Thornwood stood rigid near the hearth, her face pale with fury. Rosalind paced like a caged animal, her gown swishing with every quick, frustrated step. The moment Eloise entered, Rosalind spun toward her. "You!" she spat. "You think you can steal what was meant for me. You think you deserve him. You have ruined everything." Eloise stepped back, trembling. She had endured Rosalind's cutting remarks for years, but never had they been so sharp, so venomous, so full of open hatred. The Duke moved instantly, placing himself in front of Eloise. "You will not direct your anger at her," he said firmly. "Lady Eloise has done nothing wrong." Rosalind let out a hysterical laugh. "Nothing wrong? She hides like a mouse every day of her life, and tonight she appears in the hall like she belongs there? She embarrassed our family. She humiliated me. Enough," the Duke said again, voice low but commanding. Lord Thornwood cleared his throat. "Your Grace, let us speak plainly. Eloise is not prepared for a life in the nobility. She is quiet, lacking the skills needed. She does not shine." Eloise lowered her eyes, the familiar shame returning like an old ache. But the Duke did not allow the moment to linger. "Perhaps she does not shine because you have never given her the chance," he said. "Perhaps she is quiet because you taught her to be silent." Lady Thornwood snapped. "You do not understand the burden she has been. She is nothing like Rosalind. She has no grace, no presence, no confidence. She ruins things simply by existing." Those words pierced Eloise like knives. Before she could step away, the Duke reached back and took her hand, firm, steady, grounding her. "I have heard enough," he said. "I will not stand in a house where cruelty toward one's own daughter is spoken so freely." Lord Thornwood stiffened. "Your Grace, surely you cannot be considering—" "I am considering Eloise," the Duke said. "And if she is willing, I intend to court her with sincerity and respect." That sentence dropped into the room like thunder. Rosalind gasped. Lady Thornwood grabbed her husband's arm. Lord Thornwood's face twisted with disbelief. "Your Grace," he sputtered, "this is madness. Eloise cannot be a duchess." She is. The Duke raised a brow. "She is what?" Lord Thornwood froze, unable to say the cruel words that hovered on his tongue. The Duke continued. "She is intelligent. She is honest. She is gentle. She is real. These are qualities far rarer than beauty or charm." Lord Thornwood shook his head. "You are making a terrible mistake." But Eloise suddenly found her voice. "No," she said softly, "he is not." Everyone turned to her. Her heart pounded, but the truth spilled from her like a flood released after years behind a wall. "I know I am not what you wanted," she said to her parents. "I know I was never the daughter you hoped for. I know you think I am plain and useless. I know you see me as a burden. But I am done apologizing for existing." Lady Thornwood drew a sharp breath, scandalized. Lord Thornwood stepped toward her, but Eloise didn't back away this time. "For years I believed I deserved nothing," she said, tears gathering but her voice steady. "I believed I was unworthy of happiness or love or even simple kindness. But tonight, someone finally saw me. Not as a mistake, not as a shadow, but as a person." Her gaze shifted to Rosalind, her sister, her rival, her mirror of everything she was never allowed to be. "I do not want your spotlight," Eloise whispered. "I never did. I only wanted a place where I could breathe." Rosalind trembled, eyes burning with wounded pride. "You will ruin us," Rosalind whispered. "Do you understand? You will ruin this family." Eloise shook her head. "No, I will only stop letting you ruin me." The room went silent. Then the Duke stepped to Eloise's side, his voice quiet but strong. "Lady Eloise," he said, "I meant every word I spoke in the garden. I wish to know you. I wish to offer you a life far from this cruelty. But the choice must be yours alone." He turned to face her fully, his eyes warm and steady. "I will ask only one question. Do you wish for me to stay in your life, or shall I leave Thornwood Manor tonight and never trouble you again?" Her breath shook. The world seemed to pause around her. Her parents' cold stares. Rosalind's shaking fury. The guests whispering just beyond the doorway. Her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. And the Duke waiting, patient, respectful, willing to walk away if she said the word. This was her moment. Her whole life she had been silenced, overlooked, pushed aside, told that she was nothing. But now, for the first time, someone offered her a choice. Eloise lifted her chin slowly. Her eyes met the Duke's, shining with fragile courage. "I want you to stay," she whispered. The relief that washed across the Duke's face was quiet but profound. He bowed his head once. "Then I will." Lord Thornwood erupted. "I forbid this!" "Eloise is not." "You do not decide," the Duke said sharply. "Not in this matter." Lady Thornwood's voice trembled with panic. "Think of the embarrassment, Your Grace. Think of the consequences." "I am thinking of them," the Duke answered. "And I am choosing Eloise regardless." Rosalind burst into tears and fled the hall, the doors slamming behind her. Lady Thornwood followed in fury, leaving Eloise, her father, and the Duke standing in the echo of the moment. Lord Thornwood's voice cracked as he made one last attempt to regain control. "You will regret this," he whispered. The Duke answered calmly, "No, I will not." He extended his hand to Eloise once more. "Come," he said quietly, "let us leave this room. You have faced enough cruelty for one night." Quote. Eloise hesitated only a moment before placing her hand in his. For the first time in her life, she walked out of a room not in the shadows, not unnoticed, but beside someone who chose her openly. Months later, Eloise Thornwood, now Eloise Ashford, Duchess of Briarwood, stood beside the Duke on the balcony of their estate, feeling the morning sun warm her face. Life had changed in ways she never imagined. She discovered she had a talent for estate management, for teaching children, for mediating disputes, for organizing harvest fairs and helping farmers rebuild after storms. For living, she was not the quiet shadow anymore. People respected her. They sought her guidance. They trusted her. The Duke adored her, genuinely, quietly, consistently. He never raised his voice at her, never belittled her, never made her doubt her worth. He told her often, "You were always meant to shine. Your family simply kept the light from you." And Eloise, slowly but surely, began to believe him. Rosalind never wrote. Her parents wrote once, demanding financial help. Eloise refused with grace. But Eloise did not hate them. She no longer needed their approval. She no longer chased what they withheld. She had built a life where she was more than enough. She looked at the Duke, who watched her with that warm, steady gaze she had learned to trust. "Do you ever regret choosing me?" she asked softly. His answer came instantly. "Never. Choosing you was the first decision in my life that felt completely right." Eloise smiled, heart full in a way she had once believed impossible. "I sometimes think," she whispered, "that being invisible was a blessing, because if anyone else had seen me first, I might never have been yours." The Duke chuckled softly and touched her cheek. "Nothing could have kept me from seeing you," he said. "Not then, not now, not ever." Eloise leaned into him, letting the peace of her new life settle around her like a warm cloak. She was no longer the forgotten daughter. She was the woman who had been seen, chosen, loved. The shadow who became a duchess. The quiet girl who learned to speak. The overlooked sister who built a life brighter than anyone expected. And for the first time in her life, Eloise Thornwood understood the truth. Being unseen by the wrong people had allowed her to be discovered by the right one. Her story had not been stolen by her sister, or her parents, or her past. Her story had only just begun.